Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I don't want to say I have an announcement because have I been talking about this non-stop for a year? Yes. But I wrote a cookbook and I just yesterday got it in my hands for the first time. And I want to sit down and have a talk about what motivated me to do this, sort of show you guys a few of the recipes, and I want to talk about this because this is a passion project like nothing else. This is not my first book. I wrote my first book back in 2020. It's called Sustainable Badass. It was published in Danish, and then I think it was in 2022 it came out in English, and obviously we are also working towards getting this published in English as well. But for now it's just out in Danish. It's called Sustainable Gourmet, or in Danish, Bæredygtig Gourmet. And this I have been so passionate about. I've spent so much time on something that should have been a side project, but I have put my money, my soul, my everything into this thing. And when I got it in my hands for the first time yesterday, my heart just fell to my stomach. Also, I got several copies, 120 copies from my publisher, so I can sell them when I do my lectures and my public events, etc. So it took a while for the parcel to arrive because it was a big box, and because of that, a lot of people who just ordered the book or pre-ordered the book got it before me. So I started to see people on Instagram getting this book and looking through it and like giving me feedback before I even held it myself, which is a wild thing. Crazy. But now I have it, and I over the moon. And this is so emotional to me because when I made Sustainable Badass, I felt like I found something that I wanted just to summarize all the zero waste work that I had done through, I think at that point, during 5 or 6 years as a zero waster. This is very, very different because I haven't always been interested in fine dining, in gourmet. This is a fairly newer passion, and it's something that has just completely overwhelmed me how much I love this. And I didn't realize I wanted to do a cookbook, and I actually said for a long time I wasn't gonna do a cookbook because so many other people are so much better at that kind of stuff than I am. Talking to one of my friends last spring about doing another book project, and we were just, I think we were in a spa honestly, talking about what that book could be. And then I said, if I had to do something again, I think I would do plant-based fine dining, because it's not something there are tons of recipes and guides about. It's not something that's been explored a whole lot, because now at this point, like, we know plant-based, vegetarian, vegan, everyday foods. Like, we got the lasagnas and the burgers and the chili sin carne and the Buddha balls, and we have all this stuff. More people could definitely get into the plant-based foods in everyday life for sure. But I have been in so many situations, and I've talked to so many people who say that they kind of got it down when it comes to their everyday cooking. But what do you serve for like a Christmas feast? Or what do you do for New Year's? Or how do you plan an anniversary dinner? And all these bigger events and occasions in our lives feels a little flat when the only plant-based recipes you have in your resume are very rustic or everyday-ish. If you want to do something else, if you want to do the fine dining thing, there isn't a lot of resources for that. So that's why I made this. I think it's important to talk about luxury and sort of like finer qualities in life, and to sort of normalize introducing more sustainable concepts into those spaces. Because, and I think this is a more universal thing as well, but I've just been in the situation specifically with the Danish cuisine that our dishes, especially around the holidays and special occasions, they're very meat heavy, they're very focused on meat, and then you got all the other sides. And that has sort of led to this association that in order to have a good time, in order to celebrate something, you need a good piece of meat. However, introducing and normalizing plant-based dishes in those more luxurious prestige spaces, I think is massively important if we want to really move our mentality away from these very impactful products and moving away from these very impactful habits that we don't actually need to have a good time or to have an amazing flavorful experience. So I made this, and to make matters worse, like that's a weird way of saying it, but I also wrote a foreword that is the most personal I have ever been. I feel almost naked. I remember writing this foreword when I was on a train in the middle of Germany, and I sat there and I wrote this thing. It just came out of me like, and it's about my past with an eating disorder, and I was sobbing in this train. I couldn't think of a way for me to do a book based on my love for cooking without talking about where that love comes from. So I have mentioned a couple of times online that I have in my past had problems with eating. It's not something I've been detailed about. I don't think I have like the classic video where I talk about my journey through an eating disorder. I have talked more like in broader terms about veganism and diet culture and how to sort of move away from this morality and demonizing certain foods, and like how to remove this guilt you have from eating. More broad terms, not my personal experience. But I want to share a little bit of it because now it's in the foreword, and obviously I'm gonna write this in English as well. So the thing is, I love cooking, and when I was younger I loved cooking. I remember when I was very young, a child, 10 years old, I would come home from school and bake my mom cookies. She was at the atelier, she's an artist, and when the cookies were finished I would text her, "They're fresh cookies out of the oven, you can come home now," and then my mom would come home. I used food as this way of communicating love, and it's something that I do now today. But between that time and now, I had a long period where food represented this massive anxiety for me. I remember not having breakfast throughout high school and also not really having lunch. And I remember pushing like 3 peanuts around on a plate in the high school cafeteria, and whenever someone would comment that I wasn't eating a lot of food, and I think in my class it was actually a little bit of a joke, or like a punchline, that I would be eating so little for lunch, I would always say something in the lines of that I had a really big breakfast, or like I had this huge bowl of porridge for breakfast, even though that was not true. And it was really easy to remove the focus from my plate during the cafeteria lunches by making a joke or like removing focus from the topic. It happened fairly easily, and obviously some people could still see that there was a problem there, but it wasn't really addressed. And when I then got home, I couldn't really hide for dinner. So I remember feeling anxious and scared, and I remember having these sweaty palms when I sat down at the dinner table because there wasn't any way for me to remove the focus. So I was just really anxious that my parents would find out. I think one of the major things I was scared of was that they would figure out that I wasn't eating, and that would start to concern them and they would become scared for me, and I didn't want to have them go through that because they had their own goddamn problems, and life was really hard for me and my family growing up for many different reasons unrelated to this eating issue. So I didn't want to add on top of all those problems by making them worry. So I had my dinner, but it felt so bad. Every single goddamn day it felt awful. And my food joy just crumbled completely. I remember having, and I think this was the last year of high school, it started to become a lot better. Me and my dad lived together, and we would experiment with different techniques for cooking and different recipes, and it was a lot of fun really. So I started to sort of gain a little bit of that food joy back. But I remember 2 years where I had zero food joy. And I think one of the last things I mention in this foreword is that I wish I could tell her, that past version of me that was so scared of dinner. I wish I could tell her how I feel today, that it gets better. It's so wild that this is still something I get so emotional talking about, but it's just that I'm so grateful and so appreciative of where I am now, actually. And just a little side note, but it got better, and then I started uni, and then a couple of years went by. I think it was about 2-3 years into uni, it reappeared because I was under a lot of pressure and I had to move, and I also had a wedding that I had to cancel. There were many things that sort of triggered this past trauma that wasn't really ever dealt with. It sort of went away. But the thing is, with a lot of mental issues, that you cannot feel it for a while, but that doesn't mean it goes away. And I did have like smaller peaks where it reappeared, and I just actually told myself that, well, it's because I felt that way and you can never ever really recover. And I believed that for so many years. I believed that you can't ever really recover from these things, from these thought patterns. You just had to learn how to navigate them. And to some extent that's true, but I know now today that you can actually completely remove yourself from those thought patterns, that you don't have to live in a way where you always think about the amount of calories in a tin of tomatoes. Like, it doesn't have to be that way. However, it did reappear where it was pretty bad. And one of my friends at uni had a talk with me and actually supported me through a treatment plan where I got through it. I have this food joy that is almost childish because I'm sort of just channeling this past version of myself every time I cook. It means so much. And today, food is absolutely a love language for me. I love cooking for the people that I love. I love cooking for myself to show myself love. And I know that food is a language. Anyway, that's sort of my relationship with food. And this book is about food love, food joy, pure, absolute joy and appreciation, which I think goes perfectly hand in hand with the plant-based cuisine, because we need to eat more plant-based. Even people that are not 100% plant-based, we all need to normalize that this is a really sensible direction to go in, because with the impact of agriculture, and specifically with animal agriculture, it's not sustainable. It's not gonna work. It's one of the most polluting industries in the world, and we just need a change. We need a big change. And that food joy, together with the urgency of changing our food systems, and a flair and appreciation for absolute bougie, bullshit, prestige, luxury foods. Combine those and you have my book, basically. Anyway, the book took a year to do because one of the things that was really important to me was that I used local and seasonal ingredients. So this book is based on the Danish seasons and the produce that are available during the Danish seasons. It's not 100% completely through and through just seasonal produce, but all the recipes are based on these seasonal ingredients. The book also includes a little section where I go over what is in season and how you can use these things. Of course, I have all my zero waste kitchen habits put into this book as well. So we have something about how to make sustainable drinks, we have sustainable wine, sustainable table decor, and then of course the recipes. And I'm just gonna tell you now, some of these recipes took so long to develop. Some of them I've made so many times because I just wanted everything to be right. I have a recipe for plant-based macaron made with fresh mint and lavender, and getting the consistency right was, I did all this work so you don't have to, is basically what I'm trying to say. Anyway, let me take you through some of my favorite recipes. Now, this dish was so fun to make. It's a red cabbage foam, and the reason why it looks like that with the different colors is because there is an enzyme in red cabbage that whenever you expose it to really acidic things like lemon juice, it changes color and it becomes this bright, amazing pink color. This is just a basic recipe, so you can add tons of things on your plate as well, next to the foam or under your foam, on top of your foam. And then I sprayed it with lemon juice on the table, so it started changing color. You can see it in real time. I think this was so much fun. And yeah, the colors are just amazing. You know, you were often told as a child that you shouldn't play with your food, and I say the exact opposite at this point. Here I have a little starter recipes. These are some small tots with a pear that's been pickled with nori sheets, and it's so tasty. I think this actually might be one of my favorite pictures. I made this little taco amuse, and first of all, it tastes amazingly, but I also loved the plating of it. So I'm using these small ceramic beads that you usually use in baking, and I think it looks so beautiful and just like really aesthetic picture. Oh! Now this is a take on a Danish recipe. We have these pancake balls, we call them æbleskewer, but this is called æbleskewer incognito. So what I did is that I plated 4 pancake balls with different types of filling, both filling that are sweet and fillings that are savory. And I plated them so you couldn't tell the difference, and then it's up to the eater to find out which ones are the savory ones and which ones are the sweet ones. I think it's such a fun, interactive way of going through menus, and you can have this in the beginning or the end of your menu, so you can use small taste elements from the rest of your dishes and make this red thread throughout. I think this is a really fun way of using small leftovers if you have leftovers from your other dishes, you can easily make this. This is Christmas in one bite, so I didn't want to do the classic plant-based holiday feast for Christmas. I have done that before. It's in my other book and it's also many places on my platforms, but I wanted to do something similar but different. So this is a one bite dish that you take in one bite. You can serve it as an appetizer. You can scale up the recipe and use it for a full dish. But on the bottom we have a little tiny pancake that's made with potatoes. Then we have a piece of mock duck that's been marinated in this Danish Christmas beer. Then we have a foam that's made with our traditional gravy and a little gel veil that's made with pickled red cabbage. These are typical flavors that you would find at a Danish Christmas table, and I think it's fun to get them all in one bite. We're playing a lot with consistencies and textures, and it's so much fun to experience flavors that you recognize, but in a completely different form. I think this might actually also be one of my favorite pictures. Look at her! It's a deep fried tofu ball, and it's so good. It is so delicious. It's actually based on a dish that I got in Copenhagen at a dumpling place. They have this double fried tofu, and I really wanted to sort of do something with the same consistency. So the tofu that's used is silken tofu that's been set in the freezer in a completely round little mold, and then it's been coated and breaded and deep fried. It's divine. Of course we have pasta. I need to do pasta. Actually, there are plenty of pasta recipes. This is such a green little girl. I also love this. This is a warm pea sauce, and then we have an onion compote in a smoked onion shell with toasted hazelnuts. This matches my outfit. Love it. It's a kohlrabi wrapping with a blackcurrant sauce and a beetroot foam. Oh yeah. This is a very zero waste recipe. It's carrot in 6 different ways. You would think these are scallops, but they're actually king oyster mushrooms. Again, with a foam. Now this is just a little salad, but I love the way it's sort of vertical. It's a really cool effect. And then there is a tarragon cream and a little tomato and lentil filling. Vegetable mosaic. Here we have the dish from the cover. We have a seitan roast and a red wine sauce. I am so excited about this. Plant-based beef Wellington and a béarnaise. Now this is also one of my absolute favorite dishes. Look at the beauty. I think it's so cool. It's a butternut squash with a bordelaise sauce. I could eat bordelaise for breakfast. It is such a decadent, beautiful sauce. Dumplings, obviously. I also love the look of this one. It's a parsley sauce with a glazed piece of tofu and radish crudité. Now, desserts. We have a plant-based crème brûlée and a completely black cake. Poppy seed cake, chocolate string, and a crème anglaise. Just saying. Funnel cake and a sorbet. And the macaron. And here we have a panna cotta that's flavored with a traditional Danish Christmas dish. This is my pride and joy. I am so excited that it's finally here. And if you're interested in the Danish version, you can get it anywhere you get books, both online and in store. It's in the major stores, so you can find that as well, but I will leave some links down below as well if you're interested. And you can obviously message me here or on Instagram, and you can get a signed copy directly from me if you want me to write a little message in it for you. Anyway, this is my book. I am in awe. It's such an emotional thing for me to actually have this now. I am in disbelief, honestly, a little bit, and I don't know if this is going to be well received, but it's something I am so incredibly passionate about. Sometimes, I hope, it pays off to follow your passions and not just do the sensible thing. And this is not sensible, I don't think, but it is my passion. It's something I want to do way more of. I want to talk about sustainable food systems and how we can break down this mentality regarding food, and I want to share my joy when it comes to food. So, thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day. Let me know down below which kind of recipe intrigued you the most, and I'll see you guys next time. Take really good care of yourselves. Until then, bye. Thank you so much for watching this video, and also a special thank you to my Patreon supporters. You guys help me create green, zero waste content, and I love you guys. You can find the links to my social media accounts down below and the link to my Patreon on this screen. Bye!